J.A. Adande had the unique experience. He is now a professor, director of sports journalism at Northwestern. He had a unique experience. He covered Michael Jordan and the Bulls dynasty for the Chicago Sun-Times and the Kobe Bryant Lakers for the L.A. Times. So two great newspapers. He's joining us live. It is interesting. Michael Jordan got a bigger ovation in Cleveland than LeBron, and he tormented those great Cavs teams for years. He was a villain. I mean, that would be like a Red Sox going back to Yankee Stadium or something. He like a Johnny Damon and getting a bigger cheer than like Jeter. It's like, I mean, you covered Jordan. Did you think he would endure like this? I mean, most athletes don't age like this. Did you know at the time this is going to be our Pele? Great, popular forever.
Winning over places like Cleveland, I'm not sure the same applies in Detroit. We'd have to see if they hosted an All-Star weekend. Colin, the thing we didn't take into account was the enduring popularity of the Air Jordan shoes, which I think goes a long way toward explaining Michael Jordan's relevance and resonance with younger generations today. And then, of course, the Last Dance and what that did for his memory and preserving his memory intact. But I will say that it felt like for a moment, Colin, that there was no GOAT debate. That, Colin, if I was going to ask you, okay, it would feel more incomplete if LeBron wasn't there or if Michael Jordan wasn't there. And it just felt necessary that Michael Jordan show up to have that ceremony feel complete, didn't it?
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's a great point. It's funny, Iverson, his ovation, what did you make of that for Allen?
It was a great reflection of the progress. So, Colin, I was there in 97 when the All-Star game in Cleveland celebrated the NBA's 50th anniversary. And one of the themes that weekend was a lot of the legends who had been assembled for that weekend. They were all talking bad about Iverson. To them, he represented everything that was wrong with the modern NBA, the hip-hop generation, Generation X, and a lot of it was directed at Iverson. And, I think he was wounded by that. It got back to him. And now to see him at the 75th anniversary, embraced, celebrated, ensconced in the Hall of Fame, a full member of the establishment, and the recognition of what he meant for these younger generations that have come up. We've now had 2 or 3 NBA generations that came up intrigued by Iverson, that were fascinated by Iverson, that looked up to Iverson, and the influence that he has on the game's popularity with younger people. And I would say to some degree, the style of the game. And helping making it a small man's game. Michael Jordan took it from a center to a shooting guard, and Iverson, made 6-footers and people close to 6 foot like Chris Paul and Stephen Curry. I think he helped open the game up for people his size or closer to his size.
The other thing I've always felt, basketball's the only sport. Soccer's got a little bit of this, the international soccer especially, where our basketball players are artists. There's artistry to it. And like a lot of artists, they age. They get more popular with age. And I think Iverson is the classic. Nobody, we bought his art a little bit when he played. But when he left, culturally, we appreciated what he brought to the table. And, another thing about the NBA, I didn't get Iverson. I didn't get him. I was like, I don't get it. Like, he's kind of, his game. And now I look, I'm like, that's stupid. You know what I mean? Like, I do feel he's got a little bit, he's the classic artist that we love his art. It goes up in value when he passes or he leaves.
Well, Colin, the culture caught up to him, and I was just a few years older than Iverson. And I don't think I recognized at the time how much he meant to people who were younger than him coming up after him. And, again, hip hop at the time, we forget now, but in the 90s, hip hop was still outside. Hip hop was still dangerous. And now it's very much the establishment. You could argue it's the currency of pop culture. And so that's the case of the culture catching up to where Allen Iverson was 25 years ago.
J.A., you have such a unique perspective having covered Jordan and that dynasty and Kobe. In fact, I think you're probably the only person that's done that. I could be wrong on that, but they were such glamorous teams. And I don't want to be an old guy yelling at clouds, but Ben Simmons, basically, I refuse to play. Zion, obviously, he's not going to play. James Harden, got heavy in Houston. I've always sided with athletes because I worked really hard in college, and that gave me more options the minute I hit the market. In basketball, you got about 7 years to make your, 7 years, 24 to 31, you're in your prime, maybe a little longer now with better nutrition and training. But the harder you work, the worse team you go to. So I've always kind of defended the employee like they get traded. I never get traded. You get traded to different people. There's GMs that are bad, owners that are corrupt. But it is a little bit. I understand the average fan going, Simmons pouts and Harden pouts and Zion and you can't do that in football. I just wonder where you land on that stuff. Like Zion clearly has made his mind up a little bit. Like, I'm not playing here. Like, I'm going to go rehab in Portland. Like, I'm disconnecting from the Pelicans. How does it land for you, somebody that's older and appreciates the league?
Colin, I do think it's unfair that, you work hard in college to put yourself in the best position, and then you have to go to a team, probably the worst working environment, right? The team that was most likely the worst in the league that previous year, depending on how the lottery plays out. So I'd be in favor of abolishing the draft, but because that's what we have, you have to do the best with where you are. And it is unseemly, seeing people play or not play their way out of a team, not show up, not report to work. And, we do have to be sensitive with Simmons with regard to, the mental health claims that he is making. And we certainly don't want to discount those. But, just generally the lack of participation. And we've seen it now twice with James Harden. As we go forward into the trades, it's interesting because I still feel like you can count on Harden more than
so do I.
We know what we're going to get from Simmons.
Yeah.
And that's why I like Philadelphia going forward because I feel like, okay, there's fewer unknowns with the 76ers than there are with the Nets after this trade.
I was saying to start my show today, and I talked about it top of this hour as well. Los Angeles, in any industry, tech, music, entertainment, sports, the most talented people in the country want to live here. We're New York with great weather and beaches, right? And so the Lakers have never been held hostage. They have ultimate leverage. Wilt, Kareem, LeBron, they draft Kobe or they trade him from Charlotte, Magic, but they just go get the next guy. Matt Stafford said, I want to play. I have a house in L.A. I want to play for the Rams. OBJ is like, I want to play for the Rams. Paul George, Kawhi. And I said this, it would have sounded crazy 5 years ago. I don't think it's crazy today. And you covered the organization to say, listen, we got a title out of LeBron. He's missed like 70 games in 4 years. We can rebuild this puppy and move him. That sounds absurd 4 years ago. I don't think it's absurd. I don't think it's crazy to send LeBron just like, hey, man, you left teams. We're moving off you. Your thoughts?
You also have to consider from a business perspective, it hasn't worked out. They won a championship, so it's all good. It's a success. As far as I'm concerned, LeBron to LA is a success. Yeah. I'm sure he got what he wanted to off the court. They got a championship. It's a success. But from a business perspective, remember, they didn't make the playoffs his first year. When they won the championship, it was in the bubble, so you didn't get the home game revenue. And then they only had a couple home games with them in the playoffs last year. So, you think you get LeBron, you're going to have home playoff games, which is when the teams really make their money because they're not responsible for the player salaries at that point and they can ramp up the prices. But they've only had like 2 or 3 home playoff games with LeBron. So they haven't got the business payout that they wanted. And LeBron, we thought this was going to be his last act, but he's clearly restless. And I think being back in Cleveland and all the nostalgia that came with this All-Star weekend, and you heard his comments to The Athletic, I think there's a lot in play that maybe we didn't take into consideration. And also we have to take in the fact that he likes creating new pathways, right? No one's ever had anything close to approaching the career journey that he's been on. Cleveland to Miami, back to Cleveland, out to LA, winning championships in all 3 cities. So maybe he's curious as to what the next act is. And I think if you're the Lakers, okay, this happened, we got the championship, but long-term, we need a full reset, right? So I think on both sides, it makes sense that maybe their futures lie or they're best served by taking a split.
Boy, that's a really good point on revenue. I'd never thought of that. They haven't gotten any home games. By the way, I don't remember you dressing this professorial when you were a columnist. I don't know what you're.
You know what it was, Colin? I saw all the people wearing turtlenecks during All-Star Weekend. I think Magic and Michael were wearing turtlenecks. So I only have one turtleneck, Colin. This is not a regular part of my wardrobe, but I broke it out today.
Yes, you look very All-Star-ish. Great seeing you, my man. Jay Adande. Congrats, buddy, on all your success. Yeah, really good, really good point there. I had never thought of it from that perspective. Like, you bring him in. The good thing with LeBron, you get like 15 home playoff games. I've gotten like 2. So from a financial standpoint, Lakers always sell out. They always sell tickets. That's not the issue. Where's the revenue bump? Now, it's been great for LeBron. His net worth has exploded. LA has been great for LeBron. But has he been great for business for them? Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.